Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I would like to talk to you a little bit about EOC short answers and why you need to answer them. So let's get started. Here's a few things you need to know about the short answers. You're going to have one single selection short answer that asks you an open-ended question about a single story, poem, drama, or other expository article maybe. And then you're going to have one connecting short answer. And that means you're going to have two passages that are paired together, and you have to find the connection between them and then answer an open-ended question about it. Just so you know the breakdown of points, because this is really important. Each short answer is worth 9 points each. That equals 18 points total. So to give you a comparison, that's equal to 18 multiple choice questions. So if you leave a short answer blank, you're basically skipping out on 9 multiple choice questions. If you leave them both blank, you basically skipped 18 multiple choice questions, which is a no-no. So just remember, 20% of your total score comes from these short answer responses. In other words, don't leave them blank. So in order to make sure you don't leave them blank, I want to go through some examples with you so that you know exactly how to answer a short answer question. So here we go. Here's the first trick and the first rule. When you get your EOC test, before you start reading the selections, you need to find the short answer questions. By finding the questions first, you'll know which passage you're going to have to write about and which two passages you're going to have to pair together. So the first thing you should do when you start the reading section is find the short answer questions. Once you find the questions, the next thing you want to do is mark the key words in that question. That's going to help you as you start reading the passage to focus in on the key things that you're going to have to answer the question about. So let me read you this example question. In Hot Bread Kitchen, how does Jessamine Rodriguez benefit from her work at the bakery? Support your answer with evidence from the selection. So I have two things here that I have to do. I have to answer this question, everything before the question mark, and I have to support my answer with evidence from the selection. Okay, so what are the key words in that question? Well, the name of the passage is usually important, Hot Bread Kitchen. Which character I'm supposed to talk about, that's Jessamine Rodriguez, and I need to know, well, how does she benefit? That's the key word. Okay, benefit means get something good from, right? Or get something out of it. So I need to be thinking about that. Well, how does her work at the bakery benefit her? So after I read, I need to be able to answer this question. So as I'm reading, I can be marking my evidence. Okay, so again, the key is to read the question first, and that way you can look for evidence while you're reading the passage. No going back and forth 2 or 3 times, just do it once. Okay, so this question gives you something to focus on in your reading. Okay, so let's look at a sample response. Okay, just by looking at this sample response, you can already see the key words from the question. Okay, so let's go back for just a second. Remember our keywords? Hot Bread Kitchen, Jessamine Rodriguez, benefit, work at the bakery. Okay, those were our keywords. So watch what we did here. The R in race, because remember we're using race to answer our short answer question. So the R stands for restate. Restate just means to put in your own words. It doesn't mean rewrite the question. It means restate it or put it in your own words. So watch this. Jessamine Rodriguez from Hot Bread Kitchen profits from her work by fighting for social justice in the form of employing immigrant women and by pursuing her passion as a baker. Okay, so the restate is right here. I have Jessamine Rodriguez, that was in my question. Hot Bread Kitchen was in my question. Profits is just another word for benefits. So you could always use a thesaurus to find another word or just use the word benefits. And then from her work. All of that came from the original question. So all I did was restate the question. Then I have this little word by, meaning how does she actually do that? So here all I've done is restate. Now I have to answer it correctly. So here's the answer. Fighting for social justice in the form of employing immigrant women and by pursuing her passion as a baker. Okay, so far I have restated the question right here, and I have answered the question right here. Okay, I've just earned myself a 1 already, okay, which is way better than a 0 because I have answered the question correctly. But how do I bump my score up to give me even more points? I provide some evidence. Remember in our question from before, support your answer with evidence. Here's the tricky thing. In a short answer, the evidence has to support the answer. Okay, so they have to be connected. So whatever your answer is, you've got to go back and prove it by using a quote from the text. So look at this one. In Hot Bread Kitchen, the author says, by blending her lifelong passion for social justice and great food, Rodriguez says she has created her dream job. Okay, well, I can check myself because I know up here I've already used the word passion as a baker. So it's her lifelong passion. Okay, same thing here, social justice, fighting for social justice. So you can see the very direct connections here, which proves that this evidence supports my answer. Okay, so that takes care of my C, which stands for cite or quote, if that's an easier word. And then my last part, which I really don't have to do, that's something important to remember. All I have to do to get a 2 is answer the question correctly, which I've done, and provide evidence from the text, which I've done. But any good answer usually has some kind of concluding sentence. So here's what we have. This quote reveals that Jessamine Rodriguez gets the best of both worlds by doing what she loves. Okay, best of both worlds is referring back to, it's her passion, but it's also her job. So she really gets to do both. So this sentence just explains my answer just a little bit better and in a different way. So if you can't think of anything to end your short answer with, leave it at the quote. Okay, if you can conclude it somehow without restating exactly what you've already said, then try to do this explain sentence. Okay? All right, so just to recap, in a single short answer, this was only over one passage, Hot Bread Kitchen. If it's only a single short answer, you only need one quote from the text. So you answer it correctly, provide one quote from the text. And then if you can, explain it in a new way, okay? Or in new words, I should say. Okay, so that's the single short answer. So let's try a connecting short answer. Remember, the difference with this one is you now have 2 passages that you have to look at together. Sometimes you might be asked how they're the same or how they're different, but make sure that you read that question first. So before we go to our passages, I want you to look at the question itself. So let's read it. What is one similarity between Pat Summitt in A History of Fearlessness and Julie Adams in No Dream is Impossible? Explain your answer and support it with evidence from both selections. Okay. So I've read my question, I haven't looked at my passages yet, but now I know that A History of Fearlessness and No Dream is Impossible are going to be paired. So I know I'm going to have to answer questions about both of those passages. So this way, when I go to read both of those passages, I can start thinking about how they are similar or the same. So I went ahead and marked my keywords because again, I'm going to let this question help guide me through my reading. So I marked what is one similarity, my character's Pat Summitt, and my text is A History of Fearlessness. Okay, that's text 1. Text 2, I'm looking at Julie Adams in the text No Dream is Impossible. Okay, so I'm going to have to explain the similarity and I have to support it with evidence from both selections. So when you see the word connecting, you should be thinking 2 quotes. Okay, 1 piece of evidence from each text. So let's look at a sample. Now this one's going to be a little bit longer because we have to do double the work. Okay, in this case, we have to discuss both passages. So I want you to look at the first sentence. A similarity between Pat Summitt in A History of Fearlessness and Julie Adams in No Dream is Impossible. What did we do there? We restated. R stands for restate. I took all of these words directly from this question. Similarity, Pat Summitt, Julie Adams, and the 2 names of my text. Okay, all I did was restate it. Then here's my connecting word, is that both were determined. So there, in just that one word, is my answer, the word determined. So I've now answered my question correctly, and here's where it gets to be a little bit different than a single short answer. because I've answered the question, how are they similar? So this is together. Now I need to go to each text separately and talk about pieces of evidence from each one. So let's look at the first one. When Pat got Alzheimer's disease, she was determined to keep coaching. Okay, so there's my evidence. I've cited evidence from the first text. So I've separated them. So this is going to be kind of looking at the text apart from each other. So how was Pat determined? Well, she was determined to keep coaching. Similarly, see, there's that word again, similarity. Similarly, Julie's inner voice told her, "It tells me no dream is impossible." So again, that shows that she's determined. Nothing is impossible. She's determined to accomplish her dream. Okay, so I've answered the question about the two texts together. They were both determined. In the first text, she was determined. In the second text, she was determined. Okay, now what do I have to do as my last step? Well, the question said explain your answer. So even though Pat had a disease, she was determined to keep coaching and make a difference in women's basketball. There's my explanation for that text. Julie had times of self-doubt, but her inner voice told her to never give up, that becoming an actress wasn't impossible. So now I've explained how each of these were determined and how these quotes support that. Because watch this. Both were determined. Determined to keep coaching. She was determined to keep coaching. She knew it wasn't impossible. Dream is impossible. Okay? So even though it sounds repetitive, it's really not. It's just connecting these ideas together. So if you can fit the same word in several times, that means you're on track. Okay, so if your answer is determined, you better prove how each of those characters, or in this case, these were real people, were determined. So check yourself that way and make sure that you have consistently explained how they were determined, determined, determined. Okay, so seeing those more than once is okay. All right, so one more time, let's go back to what we need to know about short answers. Okay, remember, we're going to, number one, read the short answer questions first. Before we get into reading any 3-page passages, read your short answer questions. Okay? While you read those questions, mark the key words so that you know what to look for when you're reading. This will also help you with the multiple choice. Okay? Giving a focus for your reading is going to help you with short answers and with the reading multiple choice questions. So take your time, make sure you answer those short answer questions, because if you don't, you're missing out on 20% of your total score, because that can make or break you. So make sure you read carefully, fill in those short answers, use your RACE reminder, restate, answer the question, cite evidence, and explain how your evidence and answer connect together. Good luck!